Women's Sports Mix.
Cambridge Radio.
Hello, I'm Alex Elbro.
And I'm Amy Gray.
And welcome to the Women's Sports Mix Show, our fortnightly discussion on local women's sports, promoting grassroots, sporting opportunities for women and girls in the region, and spotlighting our talented sportswomen. And today we're looking at nutrition and exercise to support midlife women with health and nutrition coach Becky Balzano.
We had so much to discuss with Becky when we spoke to her that we have split this discussion into two parts through the show, so do keep listening for those insights from Becky, which I think are really useful if you are starting to think about that. Maybe you're looking for support and wondering how that works with a coach, so that's all still to come. We also have local football, rugby, ice hockey results for you. We're chatting to Liz Pamplin of Histon Ladies and George Alley of Cambridge Kodiaks. Some big scores, Alex, in the County Cup, and Cambridge City are on a bit of a run. More on that later.
Excellent news. And coming up, we have the first part of our chat with nutrition and health coach Becky Balzano. Becky Balzano is a certified health and nutrition coach and learning specialist supporting midlife professionals with energy, focus and resilience. She collaborates with private GPs, physiotherapists and NHS contracted wellbeing services to help people turn health advice into sustainable daily habits. With over 20 years' experience across leadership, HR and organisational development, Becky brings a practical, grounded perspective to behavioural change, performance and well-being. And Becky joins us today to talk about nutrition and exercise to support midlife women. Hello to you, Becky.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Amy.
Hello.
So nice to be here.
Now, that was quite a long introduction, but I think it's more because it's quite a complicated subject that people don't always understand, do they? They always think, oh, what do you mean by nutrition health coach?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Alex. So I think people traditionally, when they think of coach, they think of a football coach. So somebody is going to say, kick the ball like this and do this like this. And people will say to me, oh, I don't want to see somebody about nutrition because they're just going to give me this awful diet and tell me to eat lettuce for the rest of the week. And really it's not. It's the coaching comes first. The topic is nutrition and health, but the coaching is very much about helping each individual really understand what they need, what their challenges are, what's going to fit into their real kind of messy, busy life. And so I can give out plans, but generally I don't, because if I said to you, right, Alex, I want you to eat fish twice a week and this and this and this, and then you'd say, well, I don't like fish, and I can't cook that, and that's not really going to fit in with
and we're
my
out
routine.
on that day, or I'm going to this and I need something quick. Or
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so coaching is really about co-creation, and I can give you a little example. I've got a little story about some clients that might help to kind of illustrate that a bit better.
And I noticed, looking at your bio, is that you have a wealth of experience in this. And I think the key I found is this sustainable daily habits.
Yes.
I think if you can't make it a habit, and so many people I've talked to over the last few weeks, and they're like, you've got to make it, you've got to stack load, or whatever the word is, your habits,
Yeah.
Otherwise it just drifts off again.
Yeah, absolutely. You've really hit on something really important, Alex. And I actually wrote an article. I was away recently and I was talking to my friend and she was asking me about, well, how do you change behaviour? How do I make myself do this?
Yeah.
And you're right. There is definitely the habits part, but there is another process to behaviour change. So I wrote an article specifically for this friend. I've put it on the website, but again, I can kind of talk you through how we kind of apply that framework, because it is our everyday behaviours, isn't it, that actually make our identity, that change the way that we see things, the way that we do things. Yeah, so again, it's not giving people more information. If that was the problem, we would be super fit and healthy, wouldn't we? Because there's loads of information on the internet. So it's not lack of information, it's actually how do I apply that information and what's going to be relevant to me, and digging under the sort of the drivers of behaviour and understanding people's values, their challenges, and helping people to, rather than change the behaviour, they change the story first. And again, that's in the article, have a read, it's on my website. It's really key to changing behaviour.
So you said you've got a case study. Do you want to start with that, and then we can sort of ask questions on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'll tell you this little story about a woman called Annie. I've changed her name, obviously, and she's in her mid-40s. She's done a lot of sport. In her 20s, 30s, she played netball. She's capable. She's intelligent. She's busy, like lots of the people I work with. She's got children. She genuinely cares about her health. And when she came to me, she didn't say, I don't know what to do. She said, I know what I should be doing, but I just can't seem to stick to it. And she'd tried all of the right things. She tried sort of plans and apps and early mornings, trying to squeeze things in ad hoc, doing what she did in her 30s. And actually, she was just getting really frustrated because it wasn't working. So, I remember hearing her say, I feel like I'm going round and round in circles, and I'm getting really annoyed with myself. I could sort of sense this. And that sort of irritation does matter as well, because it can increase our stress levels, it can stop us sleeping. Raised cortisol, especially for women in midlife, is really important, linked to poor sleep. It's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? And she believed that the answer was living at 6:30 a.m. So she said, right, if I can just get up, if I can get up earlier, do my physio, do my exercise, it'll all fall into place, and then everything will be absolutely fine. But every morning the alarm went off, her body
I'm really
resisted.
hoping that, Becky, that you're going to tell us that wasn't necessary.
Kind of.
So am I.
So we went on and we sort of tried a few things. And I said, okay, look, rather than why don't you get up in the mornings, I said, what is important to you about your mornings? And she said, well, do you know what? It's really lovely. The kids come in, we all cuddle in bed. I have a cup of tea. It's really calm. My day starts off in a really nice manner. Now, those things are her key values. They're really important to her. So then what we did was we replicated that with exercise. We said, okay, so how can we make it more connected for you and feel like more of a family thing? How can we still keep the calmness? And so we understood really what she needed it to be before just saying go ahead and do it. And the other thing we did is we really looked at, what would you do? I said to her, I know that you're super organised. You organise big projects. She's project manager and does lots of programming and things like that. And I said, okay, how do you prepare for a really important meeting at work? And she kind of lit up and she said, well, it's really easy. I make sure that it's in my calendar. I go and prep the room. I make sure I let everybody know the times. I get all of my tech ready. And I said, okay, so what if this wasn't exercise? What if this was a meeting with yourself? What would you do then? And you can see this aha moment. And she said, well, I'd make sure I had the mat out. I'd make sure I'd chosen which Joe Wicks video I was going to do. I'd make sure it was up there on the TV. I'd make sure I had all of the stuff. I would make sure that I had told everybody else that I'm in a meeting this morning at this time, because it's really important for my afternoon productivity if I go to this meeting. So do you see how when you shift the kind of the values behind it? Now, I didn't tell her what to do. I talked about what's going to work for you. How would you prepare if it was different?
What works for her already in other contexts? Like you say, it's moving the context, isn't it?
In a meeting. And this is really important. Annie's story sits within a much bigger issue. It's midlife women are given all of this advice, and we're often given advice that is predominantly research done on men. Mm-hmm. And I have a bit of a bugbear about this, because we're not, as Dr. Stacey Sims, who has done a huge amount of research in female sportswomen and females, we're not small men. So there's a few key things, and hopefully I can talk to you both about that today. Key things that we need to be thinking about in a different way, and especially as we approach midlife, different sorts of adjustments to things like nutrition, exercise and sleep, because we do have hormones on a little hormone roller coaster and increased cortisol and things like that.
This is your specialism, isn't it? Do you just do midlife?
Yes.
All of this is geared towards that.
Exactly, yes. So I do now. So like some health coaches will be for specific conditions, or they'll work with children. I predominantly work with, they're always hugely capable but busy midlife, often people who might suspect they have ADHD or just very busy or very stressed. So lots of my work's been with people in NHS teams. I work with private GPs, so it can be quite high stakes roles, but people who they know what to do, but they're still not necessarily doing it. And midlife, our biology obviously changes a little bit, and our life situation changes, doesn't it? We don't have, no children and lots of free time. We've often got children, we might have parents that we're looking after, we've got careers, so they all have an impact as well. And
as you said, things don't necessarily work that did before, so it might be you actually need to learn about what works for you at your age with your body.
And you often hear people say, don't they, when I was X age, I could do this, I could fast for a week and I'd lose half a stone in time for a party, and now it doesn't seem to work when it comes off and all this sort of thing. But also, life's moved on, and all these weird and wonderful things that we might have done 10, 20, 30 years ago, often been debunked anyway. It may be okay for short term, but that's not how we want to live our lives.
I'm sure, Becky, you'll know far more about this than me, but if you're looking to make it a habit, it has to be sustainable, presumably.
Yes.
So it can't be some
exactly. Yeah. And I do tend to live all or nothing a lot of the time. So I'll get completely focused on something and I can do it until I get slightly distracted off something. One day something doesn't work. You've gone on holiday. That's always a key one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you cannot get back and you think, well, I was so good on this before and I could do it so well. Why can't I replicate what I did 3 weeks ago or whatever? And it never seems to go again. And I think that's like you were saying, I think it's just because you're pushing yourself into the wrong shaped box, if you like.
Yeah.
So 2 things that I noticed as well when you talk. One was hormones. So not only midlife, your hormone balances change and they also fluctuate, but they also fluctuate on a monthly basis, don't they?
Yes.
And then obviously change as you get older. And the other thing is cortisol. And I know this because I've done lots of different things through my life, but I always forget that the more stressed you are, the less likely is that you'll be able to lose any weight and you won't be able to sleep, because the cortisol actually stops. And I don't know why, Becky, you'll be able to probably help on this better.
Yeah.
But I meet younger people who are very stressed in what they're doing, and they're trying to eat a healthy lifestyle, and they say, but it's not doing anything. I don't feel like I'm getting any benefits, but probably are. But I think the stress, almost looking at reducing your stress before you can even look at becoming fitter. I don't know.
Yes.
Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, cortisol definitely has a role, and things like estrogen can affect cortisol, insulin, that they're all sort of linked. We're less able to manage that, I think, as we get older, and the cortisol will have more of an impact as well. We're less tolerant to insulin as well, things like that as we get older.
So is that like the sugar spikes effectively?
Yeah, so the insulin is the thing that drives the sugar into the fat storage. So if your insulin is high, you're going to be in a kind of storage mode rather than an energy burning mode. So we want to keep insulin down, and I talk a lot about this with particularly people who are pre-diabetic or diabetic, and also people that might have started GLP-1s, the weight loss medication and things like that. It's really, really important for that group of people as well to make sure the insulin is really down. But you're absolutely right that the cortisol for women is another thing. So, I would be saying try to reduce things like caffeine, try to get a better sleep, because actually that impacts our cortisol as well. Yeah, so I think you're right. And I think going back to what you were saying earlier, things do change. I think probably in our 20s and 30s, we're exercising a bit more for aesthetics, aren't we?
Yes.
But when we get into our sort of 40s and 50s, then that changes. We're then exercising for things like bone density and cognitive function and our energy levels. So we have that different focus. Yeah.
Bone density, we've spoken about in the Women's Sports Mix before.
Yes.
We didn't know much about it, did we?
No.
So that was really interesting. And it's those sorts of things that come up when you start looking into this that, regular person like me or Alex might not have thought of. As a coach, that's just obviously something for you, but actually you can learn things that are important.
That certain exercises, like strengthening exercises, becomes much more important as you get older, which I've only just sort of in the last probably few years realised. And speaking to the kettlebells ladies, how important that is. Past generations wouldn't have necessarily known that.
No, and we were traditionally taught cardio, weren't we, to do lots of kind of aerobic and cardio sessions, especially women. And so now it's almost the opposite. So we're taught, again, Dr. Stacey Sims talks about this, but there was a 2023 randomised control trial in BMC Women's Health showed that resistance training in midlife women significantly increased lean mass and reduced fat mass, even without changes on the scale. So it's really important for us as women to maintain our muscle mass. We lose something like, I think it's 8% of muscle mass per decade after 40. So you don't need to worry about bulking, because actually you're just going to be maintaining.
Trying to maintain,
Yeah, exactly. So you're right, things like kettlebells. So it is actually the advice now, or the research shows now, that it's lifting heavy and often much heavier than you think in that kind of 6 to 8 reps. So kind of number 6, you should be struggling and you might not even be able to get number 8. That would help you understand what weight you should be at, because people will say, well, what weight should I be bench pressing or, deadlifting? And I say, well, the one that you can do 6 of and maybe 7 you might fail at. So yeah, we definitely don't bulk. So that's a misinformation. And also, even if we did, we want our muscles to be able to support our bones and to be able to help us not fall over, in midlife and things like that. And the other key thing, it's not the long, steady state cardio anymore. It's the sprint interval training. And, midlife people are often very, very busy. And I said, well, look, no problem, because actually you only need 15 minutes across a week of sprint interval training. It's not everybody's ideal. I don't like doing it.
So is this the one that's more intense for a shorter period?
Hugely intense, yeah. So if I said to you, just 30 seconds of very, very high intensity, I'm going to be sick, sort of sickening type stuff. But if you just did 5 minutes, you could do 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off, 5 minutes 3 times a week. So that could be running, sprinting, but it could be something like star jumps or swimming or whatever it is. But as long as you're all out doing that thing, obviously be safe, check with your GP. Don't do what I did. I recently sprinted on a treadmill and tore my plantar fascia. So even me as a health coach make mistakes and got an injury, and it's taken me a little while to get back up my running, but it was because I went too quickly too soon. So make sure you're safe when you're doing those sprint intervals as well.
Do as Becky says, not as she does.
Yeah. We'll work up to that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that. I like the idea. So I used to do HIIT training, which is probably similar in the sense, but it was much more intense. It was like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But I like it. However horrible that little thing is for 3 minutes or whatever it is, you're moving on to something else.
Yeah, but that's it. So the other thing is I can sit here and say, okay, Amy, make sure you do the sprint, make sure you do the da-da. And people say, well, what's the best exercise? And I sort of get myself off the hook response really. But I said, well, the best exercise is the exercise that you're actually going to do. So if you hate running, don't do running. If you hate going to a CrossFit session with really banging techno, don't go. Go to a bar class with ballet. So it's going to be the thing that
actually ballet bar has become really, really popular, hasn't
exactly.
it?
So
and people used to kind of think, oh, that's not doing anything, but it's so hard. I've done a few of those in the past.
And then you just add in the sprint sessions or the weight or the resistance to that thing that you're doing. So if you do love running, you maybe add in a 5-minute sprint in the middle of your run when you've warmed up.
But when you say a 5-minute sprint, you say it could be a 40-second on, 20-second off.
Yeah.
It's not running necessarily for 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everyone needs to know about their breaks.
Exactly.
Big on breaks.
At what point can I just have a little break?
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So hopefully that kind of gives you a good sense of exercise, particularly for women. The other key thing to say is there's a bit of confusion sometimes, I think, about women exercising in a fasted state. I know women who say now, I just go off to the gym and I haven't had any breakfast or anything, and I've heard that fasting is really good for me. And the research now is it's not so good for women. Now, if it was
interesting.
a guy,
again,
absolutely, that you'd be fine, but not for women. I think if you are a particularly sedentary woman, you could do something like walking in a fasted state. But if you are doing this type of resistance training, then you definitely need to have some mix of protein, carbohydrates and fat 20 to 30 minutes before you exercise. And that just signals to your brain, oh, it's okay, incoming food, I can then use the fat or the energy that I've stored, and it helps to keep your cortisol down as well. So that could be 120 grams of yogurt, which is high in protein, with some berries. Could be a piece of sourdough with peanut. I love peanut butter. I'm talking about peanut butter. Peanut butter and banana. It could be an egg. It could be a protein coffee. So I have a bit of a mix of, I put collagen powder and coconut oil and oat milk into a lovely sort of frothy coffee. And
Amy's looking a bit worried about that one. I know of those ones, but I feel like I'd have to have someone to make that for me before I tried it on my own. I can imagine it'd end up with something that wasn't very nice.
Well,
I know that they are popular. Yeah. I might have to get one of those sometime, try that. When I used to go running with my 2 running pals, I would always run on an empty stomach because I like running in the morning, and I would get up, and it was part of my habit forming thing of I'd have to get up and go straight out the door.
Yes.
I maybe had a sip of like a green tea and a bit of water, and I'd find that was okay for 5k, because also we were doing a lot of chatting in amongst that. But when we were actually training then for a little bit further, I started feeling really unwell, and not because I'm going very fast, but I think probably because it's the time I was out, and then my body's going, what the hell's going on? Now I'm thinking about it, having something like peanut butter on toast or whatever, very nice, and it's the 20 minutes before that's often a problem, though. You have to factor that in. Yeah, exactly. It's got to fit in with your life, and if that's not going to work, then we would find another alternative. It might be go later, and again, people sort of say, I need to go to the gym in the morning. Well, not if it doesn't work for you. You might be an evening person, you might be a lunchtime person. So again, looking at the sort of habit formation, one of the key things about habits is automating it. So this automation is to take away that decision-making process. So you're not there on the day thinking, should I go in the morning or should I go at lunchtime? Should I run today or should I do weights today? If you've automated that and you've made those decisions and you don't need to think about it, because that's quite a cognitive load, and also gives you the opportunity to back out. Oh, yes. If it's in the diary, you know that you're going to run, you know how far you're going to run, you know what time you're going to run. You don't even need to think about that. I've read a lot of habit formation books, probably too many, and I've distilled it into this sort of 5-star framework, which I talk about. Again, there's a couple of articles on the website and a worksheet if people want to work through it. But one of the things is automated and sort of take the decision-making process out of that.
Cambridge Radio Women's Sports Mix.
This is the Women's Sports Mix on Cambridge Radio with Amy and Alex. We're going to hear the second part of our chat with Becky Balzano a little later. But first, let's catch up on some of those results.
We'll look at Cambridge Kodiak's ice hockey first, shall we, Alex?
Yes.
2 games to discuss here. It was a 17-2 win against Streatham Storm, followed by a 5-2 loss against league leaders Swindon Topcats. So we knew that one was going to be tough. I spoke to head coach George Alley, and we started by discussing that big win against Streatham.
The final score isn't a fair reflection on Streatham. I felt we were worth the win, but it's certainly not a fair reflection on Streatham. But to mirror that, a lot of the players scored more goals than they ever have. There were the hat-tricks for kids like Josie Milton and Scarlett Shelton. And those are players who are very much the future of women's hockey over here, and it's good to see them getting their flowers in a game like that. The team played well. It was, there were points where we had to remind them not to take Streatham lightly, because the shot count wasn't a reflection of a 17-2 scoreline. Streatham still have some very handy players and were a threat throughout the game. But it's weird to get a result like that, because Streatham scored the first and the last goals of the game. So it's hard to reflect on results like that. I mean, it's a record win for us. Another great crowd again. Sounds like a lot of people had a really good time.
The most recent game for the Kodiaks was Swindon Topcats at their place. It was a Sunday lunchtime puck drop for you, and this was a loss, 5-2.
It's a frustrating loss, because we definitely felt at points we were in the game. Swindon are the best team in the league, and with good reason. They've got some of the best players in the country playing for them. We had moments where we were pressuring them, and Cece Chandler's goal in the end of the second was just reward for that. I think what turned it back to Swindon is that they got the lead back, 30 seconds left in the second, and whether I didn't handle it well or the players didn't, we just didn't bounce back until about 10 minutes left in the third, when Swindon had already pulled it back to 4-1, 5-1. But there was some really good performances. Alicia Anderson got player of the game with good reason. I think we can beat Swindon, and given that we've got them again this weekend, I would love it if we could take 2 points off them this weekend, because I do think we can compete with these teams and match them.
Thank you very much, George. Both of their next games are away, so they are back at the Cambridge Ice Arena on Valentine's Day, February 14th against Firebees, and we'll preview that one on our next episode. And we have the second part of our conversation with Becky Balzano coming up next.
Cambridge Radio Women's Sports Mix.
You're listening to the Women's Sports Mix on Cambridge Radio with Amy and Alex. We're going to return to our discussion with Becky Balzano now, and why we don't need to fear the fat.
I wanted to pick up on something that was the idea of fat. And I think all too often we fear fat. Fat isn't necessarily the thing that makes us fat.
I don't fear. Coconut oil I use a lot of, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I quite like it. It was the idea of it sort of swimming in my coffee.
Oh, I have one of those sort of frother things.
Alex, you were saying off air about your flax seeds.
Yes, yeah.
Which Becky was impressed by.
Yeah.
I am impressed. I am, because they are a lot of bang for your nutrition buck, flax seeds.
The only thing I was worried about is that it's the ground ones, and I know that there's, again, you get this conflicting things about, oh no, that's not as good, and you might as well just be eating sawdust. But I'd found that once I've started having that on porridge or whatever, it does actually help my digestion.
Exactly. They are really good for digestion, and the ground, they haven't had the husk taken away, so the fibre hasn't been taken away. That will be a bit more accessible for your stomach, but they're great because they've got omega-3s in them.
Yes.
They've got fibre in them, and they're also part of a group called phytoestrogens. So again, these are a group of foods. They are a little bit misunderstood. They are plant compounds that gently interact with estrogen receptors. So they help to balance estrogen. So if you've got too much, they will help to balance it down. And if you've not got enough, they help you to hold on to your estrogen. That's a very simplistic way of explaining it. But so they are found in things like soy foods. So things like tofu, tempeh, miso, things like that, edamame beans, if you like those. Flax
now
seeds.
we're talking.
Yes, I know. I love tofu.
That's great.
Yeah, we have that a couple of times a week.
Yeah, so really good, especially if it's the plain one. You can get some of these things like tofu that have got a lot of flavouring, and then you're shifting into that ultra processed food. They're also called linseeds as well, so if people are not sure, that is the same thing. Lentils and chickpeas, obviously part of this group. Whole grains and cruciferous vegetables, so that's like your broccoli and your cauliflower.
Cruciferous.
Yeah, I like that word. Cruciferous.
We eat a lot of broccoli.
I eat loads of broccoli as well.
So we have that pretty much every meal, because it goes back to when my kids were growing up, and broccoli was one of the only things bizarrely they ate. So we'd have broccoli and green beans for every single meal. You'd think by now I was sick of it, but I don't. I got sick of cauliflower when I went through a phase of having cauliflower instead of carbs. That was one of the things.
Yeah, cauliflower rice and things like that. Yeah.
See, now I find that now quite hard to stomach unless it's covered in cheese sauce.
That's all right. Delicious. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, we've got to have something, a bit of what we like, don't we? So, but again, I mean, it's really good to have diversity. So we talk about sort of 30 fruits and vegetables, or it can be herbs, seeds, pulses, but kind of plant-based items a week. It's quite interesting how quickly you can rack it up. So I don't know if you ever kind of tracked it across a day. And I sometimes send people kind of worksheets or little tables with the different colours on as well, as a kind of family tick sheet. How many of the colours can you get in the week, and how many have you managed to tick off? Because that's really good for your gut microbiome, that you're feeding it that diversity.
And I feel like spending that time on it, that's an investment in your health, isn't it? Why wouldn't we, maybe not all the time, but just certainly to get a guide of what we're eating?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really interesting exercise, because when you do that, you're either going to be pleased and say, oh wow, actually I eat a much more diversity, or you can see, oh well, I'm eating the right things, but like not the diversity, which I hadn't really thought about that part of it.
Yeah. And it's nice to, some people, going back again to the habits framework, another of the criteria is to make it attractive. So I say, well, how is this going to be attractive to you? So it might be, well, I really love trying lots of different fruit and veg, so I'm going to treat myself by walking through the fruit and veg market. That is attractive to our brains. We get a dopamine hit. Or even looking at the food and making it attractive in that sense, or gamifying it. So if you've got a kind of chart on the wall and you're the sort of person that loves a tick list, or you're maybe even competing with somebody else in the family, again, that becomes then attractive. And then if we share the outcome as well, or kind of really note the positive outcome, like you were saying, Alex, oh yeah, I noticed actually I feel really good after that. That again, that's that dopamine hit. That then becomes a behaviour that's attractive to your brain to become repeatable. So then you build the momentum, and then you build the habit. And it's those kind of gentle processes, rather than saying eat more veg,
which is so random, isn't it? And so in the sky that you can't really like, oh yeah, we all know we've got to do that. But I think even tracking it and then realising what counts and what doesn't count as well, and hopefully looking at it and thinking, oh great, that's good, I just need to move a couple of bits around.
Yeah. And always start small. So I'm always trying to make things more simple, easier for people. So I don't say start off with 30 a week, because that might be quite a challenge for some people who've never eaten that much. I say, well, just one this
and
week.
even like possibly need to learn a new recipe. And if you're talking about people that are busy, have children, have caring responsibilities and what have you, you can't suddenly learn 20 new recipes.
No, exactly. So I might say, well, what is going to work for you? And they might say, well, I could maybe do a Tuesday, and I could maybe do something different on a Tuesday, or or some people have this concept that they have to create this lovely meal each time. And I think I've mentioned to quite a few people, sometimes my lunch is less cooking and more assembling. So it's very much a kind of open the fridge or the cupboard, and I've always got a tin of chickpeas, maybe an odd tomato or half a bag of salad, and I might have a tin of fish or a bit of cheese, and I'm kind of just plonking them on my plate. If we're
really assemblers. We were talking about this, weren't we? Me and Alex aren't that fussy about it. Needs to be like a big cooked extravaganza. We're kind of just layer up a few things.
Yeah, but it is the attractiveness sometimes. I think sometimes I can do that and make it look so horrible because I just dumped it. I'm like, actually, if I a little bit more thought in that.
It's making it easy, isn't it? So as we kind of want to break habits, we talk about creating a lot of friction between the thing and you, making it really difficult. If you have to, remember when they changed the smoking laws, if you have to then go outside, you have to get a lift all the way down the building, you might have to put your coat on. A lot of people couldn't be bothered. It then became too much of a hassle, didn't it? And it's the same with things like food and exercise. Make it really easy. So have the stuff already in the fridge, maybe already prepared if you know that you've got a busy day, or make an easy recipe. Don't do some kind of very complicated, hugely difficult meal. So midlife health isn't about doing more, it's about doing the right things for your changing biology. So if you're a woman, you're in your 40s or 50s, here's the big rocks. So first, stop training for aesthetics, start training for strength, energy, cognitive function and independence. Keep these values front and centre. Lift weights 2 to 3 times a week, and go heavier than you think. You won't bulk, you'll protect muscle, bone and metabolism. Swap endless cardio for short, intense sessions. Fuel before your hard workouts. So training on empty stomach raises your cortisol. Sleep is not optional. Poor sleep worsens hormones, cravings and fat storage. Eat real food, so plenty of protein, plants, fibre, whole food, phytoestrogens like lentils, flax and soy, and reduced what disrupts the hormones. So you know what I'm going to say, that is the alcohol, the caffeine and the ultra processed foods. But I never say never. If that's just going to be too tricky, just be kind of a bit more mindful about it. And then once you have got an idea of what habits you want to do or what things you want to increase, decrease, then apply that kind of behaviour change and the habit framework as well to help really embed that, and that becomes then part of your identity and becomes easy and simple.
That's brilliant.
And if someone's looking to find out more about what you do, or maybe looking for a coach for their journey, how do they get in touch with you? Things like that.
Brilliant. Yes, absolutely, Amy. So website, I always ask people to book a call with me because it's really important that they feel that they can work with me and I can work with them. So there's a book a discovery call. I've got a free webinar coming up, and actually my group program is open as well. All on my website. So if you look in the services page, you can see how you can
what's your website?
Becky Balzano coaching.co.uk. Or I'm on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, lots of details on there about how to work with me and what that looks like. So different options.
Thank you ever so much, Becky. That's been really informative. I know me and Amy will have lots to chew over on that for the next few weeks and months. Thank
Brilliant.
you.
Thanks so much for having me both.
This is Cambridge Radio, Women's Sports Mix.
This is the Women's Sports Mix. I'm Amy Gray. I'm here with Alex Elbro. Hello, Alex.
Hello. Did you like that one?
We are the A-team. So
we are,
say that
exactly.
At the beginning, but we are still the A-team.
We are.
Okay, let's discuss the football results now. Start with Cambridge United women. At the weekend, on Sunday the 25th January, they played Sudbury. This was 3-0. Great to see a win from the team. Kind of had a run of losses and draws in the league, so this is good for them. Also, their County Cup game back on January the 18th. You would expect the U's to get through this, and they did 6-0 against Cambridge Rangers. And Cambridge Rangers play out of Girton Recreation Ground. I did look up to see where they were. And next up for the U's is Chatham at home on February the 1st, and then it's Dulwich Hamlet away. Histon ladies, what really can we say about a team with a 100% win record going into nearly February
brilliant,
now?
Isn't it? I mean, you can't get better than that. But equally, when you talk to them, they're kind of humble with it, and they're really grateful for what's happening and how they're getting coached and how they're doing so well. So
and they've put so much into it, haven't they?
Exactly.
They really deserve their position in the league. Incredible what they're doing there. They were also in the County Cup, another big score, a 10-0 win against Linton Granter. I spoke to Stute's assistant manager, Liz Pamplin, and started by asking about their most recent game, which was away to Dunstable in the league. That was a 4-1 win for Histon.
We went to Dunstable, and they're the closest team in the league to us in terms of could get closest on points. So we knew how significant the game was, and going over there is never easy. It's a bit of a trek. The weather wasn't great. We moved the game from the stadium pitch onto the 3G pitch, and it's a bit exposed there, so it was quite cold and a bit wet and a bit windy. So it was one of those games where it could just be a banana skin if you don't get it right. And we went 1-0 down, and the girls showed brilliant resilience to not let that knock them and come back into the game, and scored 4 excellent goals, actually, and shared the scorers round. So that was we felt like a really significant win yesterday, and the first league game in a while. So it was really good to get that on the board.
This is the thing, isn't it? When you are leading the league and you've done so well this season, you don't want to lose that fighting spirit of coming from behind in a game. So it's good to see 4 goals after going 1 goal down.
Yeah, I mean, when you're top of the league, everyone's out to get you. And especially Dunstable, they're going really well in the league this year, and they've got young players, and they want to prove that they're as good as the teams at the top of the league, the very top. So you're always there to be shot at. And as I say, our girls have developed an excellent resilience this year. There have been games we've been down in, but we've always managed to bounce back. And to bounce back with 4 goals was excellent, because Dunstable hadn't let many goals in this year.
And we'll look at the other game that we previewed on the last episode of the Sports Mix, which was the County Cup game against Linton. We were expecting Histon ladies to win this, and it was 10-0, so a big score here.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's, the early rounds of the Cup. It's like, it's like the FA Cup, isn't it? The early rounds of the Cup. You're going to have teams that are placed in the league significantly higher than the opposition that they play against. But they're always tricky games to get right, because it was at Linton, and again, this time of year, the pitch was quite heavy. They're used to playing there. Another young side who really wanted to prove themselves against higher league opposition. So we had to go in professionally. We had to make sure that we had our bases covered. We changed a few players round to give some players some minutes, and we were delighted with the outcome, because everybody who kind of stepped in wanted to take their chance. And we were able to do the job on the day and score some good goals. And as I say, on a very heavy pitch, we played some really good football, which delighted us as coaching staff. We took things that we'd done in training on the week before into the game, into the patterns, and we were delighted to be able to recreate that and come away with an excellent victory for us.
So let's have a look at the next 2 games. A couple of home games coming up. The next one is against Mulbarton on the 1st of February. What are you expecting from this one?
Yeah, this will be another tough game. We played Mulbarton. We beat them 4-2 in the very early August, essentially. But they're a good side. They've got 2 very prolific forwards, and it's important for us to keep them quiet and then go at the other end and score. We had a tough fixture there. As I say, we don't let in many goals, but they scored 2 against us. So we're wary of the threat that they pose. But we know we have to go out there and be at our best to beat anyone in our league. And so that's what we'll go and do.
And another home game for people interested in going to see Histon ladies the following Sunday on the 8th. This is against Thetford, Liz.
Yeah, again, another team we played earlier in the season, and it was a tight game. It was a 2-0 victory at their place. And again, they're a side that have got some experience. They're a feisty team. They like to get stuck in, which is great. And we had a tough contest at their place as well. That day we scored 2 excellent goals, and it will take some good play from us to be able to break them down. and win the game. Obviously, this is what we're aiming to do, and we'd love to see people who've never been perhaps before to Histon to come and see what the ladies are producing. They deserve the support because they're playing so well. So yeah, it'd be lovely to see some people along at the home games. We're expecting 2 tough games, so there should be good football games to watch.
Thank you very much, Liz Pamplin. We'll look at Cambridge City now, Alex. In terms of County Cup, they are through as well, 6-0 against Whittlesea. And the next round of the County Cup is February 15th on that Sunday. So we will preview those matches on the next episode of the Sports Mix show. In terms of the league for Cambridge City, another big score, and this is league, not cup, 7-0 win against Coney Heath on January the 25th. This puts them 4 points clear of relegation.
Excellent news. Isn't that great? It's good to hear so many of our local teams doing so well now.
And their next fixture is against Stevenage Development on February the 8th. That's going to be a tough game, but it is at home for City. They then have a long run of away games in the league. They've played a lot of home games in the first half of the season, but back-to-back draws followed by back-to-back wins. I think it's given them the edge over their relegation rivals. Let's keep it going.
Absolutely, that would be great.
Cambridge Radio Women's Sports Mix.
This is the Women's Sports Mix on Cambridge Radio with Amy and Alex. And now to rugby. I caught up with Fabs Howell from Shelford Women's Rugby Team, and I commented on how well Shelford are doing so far in this season.
Yes, we are. We've got back into 2026 really well. Started off with a couple of good wins. It's looking good, and excited to see what's coming next.
You were saying last time we spoke about, you've got some new players in and everyone getting to their groove, if you like, and finding where they're feeling happiest, training going well. It feels like it's all falling into shape.
Absolutely. So we've had a good season. We obviously had a bit of a blip just before Christmas, and we had a loss there, which, probably didn't have to lose that game. I say we lost it for ourselves. We just got lost our heads a little bit, and then we kind of braved Christmas, and that was it. So it's quite hard to pick everything back up. We were at it again on the 11th of January, so there wasn't a huge amount of time after Christmas to get back into it. But luckily we were back out, lots of energy from all the Christmas dinners, ready to go again.
Yeah, I mean, you say luckily, but myself and Amy came down to watch you on that match, which was great, and the atmosphere is brilliant. But on the 11th of January, like you say, both teams are coming in probably first game of the year. You've come in off the back of, like you said, Christmas and not a win, but you all had your heads down before we even saw you and training, and I didn't even want to disturb you, so we just crept into the stands and you were game on, weren't you? And you had a really great win.
49-0. We said we wanted to put 50 points on. Didn't quite get to 50, but near enough. So yeah, it was a tricky match. It was bitterly cold.
Yes.
Pretty miserable, kind of raining at some points, and it was quite a slow match. There were lots of stoppages, so you spent a lot of time standing around waiting for injuries to be sorted out, things like that. So it does get really cold, which is tricky. We were terrible under the high ball. I think just lots of cold fingers, not being able to. And actually, we had very little possession. We did pretty well to convert what we did have, because it wasn't hugely kind of in our favour the way that play was going. But yeah, really, really happy with the end result of that. Had a few unfortunate injuries, which I'm going to probably take a bit of a toll for the rest of the season. So we've got some other players who are going to have to, step up. But overall, just a really good win. It's really tricky stuff to balance, as always. I think most of our injuries were actually just like freak things, but it is always trickier in the cold. It does affect you. You have to make sure that if everything else has stopped, you keep moving, you keep warm. Like, we have the bike out for the subs so that they can get on the bike before they come on the pitch. They've warmed up a little bit. But, it doesn't always work like that, because if people go down for injury, you have to go on immediately. You have to get yourself on the pitch. And so you have to kind of constantly be keeping yourself warm. All our best game plans, one little injury, one card, anything like that can just completely throw those. So,
but when you're away, you can't bring a bike with you. I guess you just have to make do with whatever's at the place that you're going to play at, which brings us on to Sunday 18th of Jan. You went away to Long Eaton, which is in Derbyshire, I believe.
Yes, yeah, Nottingham way. So that's a bit of a trek as well, and it's soggy. It's soggy down here and it's soggy up there as well. We play at Shelford on an artificial pitch, which is very different to playing on grass. We did train on grass in the week leading up to that match to try and get ourselves used to it. But like, it's a different, your legs feel very heavy very quickly. The backs can't kind of open up as much as they can on the artificial. So it is a bit of a different game. And again, we had a few incidents there, which meant we had to adapt. I ended up playing hooker for a little bit, which is not where I play. I'm very much prop, but you occasionally just have to step up and volunteer for something.
Yes, but you did really well. You still won 32-12, although I know maybe you didn't win as you'd have liked to have won, but you got the win. And, sometimes it has to be like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, as I said, we're actually in a really good position that we can be winning and we can be getting these score lines and we can still be going, you know what, that wasn't good enough. We're better than that. We've got so much more to give. If we do this, if we do that, we do this. We're doing really well, but there's still just opportunity for loads of growth there, which is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't that a nice position? You never want to come complacent, but equally, you're all thinking, right, okay, I'm going to do that better, even though you could have just said, well, I've taken the win, great, forget about that and move on to the next one. But you're looking at what's going on. Now, you've got a game coming up this Sunday, the 1st of February, and this is the third round of the Cup that you've yet to have a go at against Westcliff. How do you think you're going to do on that one?
So yeah, we should go into this really well. As I said, we've managed to, we've been given 2 byes for the first 2 rounds. We haven't played any of the Cup yet. So through to the 3rd round without actually having to play, which has been, a privilege in some respects because you avoid any risk of injury and things like that. But, that game time and playing together as a team, training doesn't fully simulate that. You want the time together playing as a team to really gel. So we should be going into this well, but we've got to balance it. We've got to have the right amount of confidence in ourselves whilst not being complacent. I think Westcliff are the league below us. They've played games in the Cup and they've beaten some decent teams on the way here. They want to use it to make a statement. They've managed to recruit well from some other clubs and are definitely looking to work their way up through the leagues. So yeah, we can't be taken for fools here.
Yeah, so that's going to be a one to watch then. You haven't played them before then?
I don't think so. I definitely haven't. Some of my teammates might have played them way back when, but not for a while at least.
Well, that's going to be exciting in a way. Maybe not so exciting for you, but exciting to watch.
Unknown opposition, which is interesting.
Yeah, and then you've got a game on the 8th of February against Bridgnorth women.
Yes. Yeah.
And how do you feel about that one?
So we went away to Bridgnorth fairly early in the season, I think. And again, horrible weather. It's a long old way away. It's closer to Wales than it is here.
Wow.
And yes, it's a big trek. And it was, again, miserable weather. And they've just come up into this league, but they're definitely, they've made a bit of a statement. I think they're sitting 3rd or 4th, so they're up there. So it's another must-win game for us. They're all must-win games. They'll bring in opposition. It's a long way for them to travel, so hopefully that's in our advantage.
As opposed to last time. Yeah.
So hopefully we can do well, and they're quite a big forwards game. We're out on our pitch. We've got our wingers that we can get around the edges. We might be able to do well there. Oh, brilliant. Well, good luck with all of those, and especially good luck this Sunday. Hope you get to play that Cup game, and hope it's a great result for you. And we'll speak to you soon. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks very much.
Women's Sports Mix. Cambridge Radio.
You're listening to the Women's Sports Mix with Amy and Alex. And Alex, have you been rolling your way around Cambridge?
Not quite yet. I think my expectations to real life, it's that Instagram versus reality thing, isn't quite there yet. But, I am making a little tiny, literally baby steps on my roller skates.
All the gear and some idea at the moment.
All the gear, pretty much no idea. Because I had one lesson and that was going quite well for a beginner. And then I thought, I'll go along on my own and use all that the week after. But I think in the end, it was about 10 days later. And my poor little brain was like, you've never been on these skates before. What are you doing? And, I struggled with everything. And then I got a bit panicky because I was very busy, which is great to see how many girls were skating. It was a girls' skate night. And I sort of had a bit of a panic. But anyway, I persevered because I'm not one to give up.
Well done.
And I saw one of the women there that was one of the skate coaches. And I just said, can you just give us a few tips again? So she got me going on stuff and told me some drills to do at home and to practice, sort of marching and balancing on one leg and things, which you don't really think about when you're roller skating. skating, you think we're on 2 feet, but you've actually got to learn to calmly lift one foot and not worry about it. So it's all going in the right direction.
And this is the kind of sport you can get from going to the warehouse.
Yes.
Describe where the warehouse is.
So the warehouse is on Coldham's Lane, kind of opposite the Beehive Centre.
Near the roundabout, isn't it?
Yes, sort of near the roundabout, and it's right near the Premier Inn on that corner. It's next to it, actually. And also another great spot, Nando's on the retail park. It's like next, it's behind it. So you can go there, and they're really supportive. They're all really lovely. And I also got chatting to some other women my age and a bit younger who had just started, because sometimes maybe they fancied it, they did it as a young person, or they've got children, they want to do it with them, and on skateboards or on skates, inlines, quads, everything. It's great to see. So next time there might be a bit more progress. I had better luck on Sunday when I went. I did actually go up and down the park without falling over or having to grab anything. So that's good, isn't it?
Or bumping into anyone.
Yeah, there wasn't many people in at that point. I waited till everyone had pretty much gone home. But, you know, little gains. You've got to start somewhere. Exactly, to be continued, definitely. I have a new helmet that's very sparkly, though.
Nice.
And very nice boots.
Important.
Exactly, those are the most important things, obviously. And Amy, how about you? You are looking for your skates that you had as a child. Is that right?
Skategate.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So we thought some skates had been found, and the box had a picture of 4-wheeled skates on it, and I said to Mum, yes, I will take them. Eventually they got to my sister's house, and they were in lines.
She opened the box to find a different
skates.
something inside, which is really weird, isn't it?
But my sister has the skates that we used to both use. They're my sister's, but we used to both use them when we were pre-teens, teens, not sure. So hopefully those will fit me.
And then you're going to come along with me, aren't you? And then you're going to show me up, and then I'll be like, no, go away.
No, I dread to think it's been a long time since I skated, but I'll do my best.
Yes, and the skate coaches are really supportive there, and they were saying they skate 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, and for like 3, 4, 5 years recently. So it's kind of not surprising. We've got to start from somewhere, haven't we? And I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much to all our guests and to you for listening.
You can listen back to this show and all of our shows on demand at cambridge.radio. We are also on podcasting platforms, and our next episode is in 2 weeks' time, February the 12th.
Do follow us on Instagram at women's_sportsmix. And if you'd like to tell us about your sport, your team or grassroots activities, you can contact us at wsm@cambridge.radio. Goodbye.